Welcome to Still Untitled. I'm Will. I'm here with Adam.
Hello.
And Norm.
Hello.
We're in a different place today. It's confusing and scary.
We're actually in my office in the Mythbusters production building.
There's all sorts of stuff going on around us all the time, and so apologies in advance if there's any noise or anything like that. But
So the crew is taking lunch about now, but we are working on 2 big stories downstairs, and so yeah, everything's a total shit fight right now.
yeah, there's stuff happening here. Lots of stuff happening here.
How often do you get to work out of this office as an office? Does you actually do work here?
Well, so I often stage things on this table. It's usually like just cluttered with crap. The table we're sitting at, my desk right here. That's usually, I come in and check emails, whatever, 15, 20 times a day. And at lunch, I'll sit there and eat a sandwich and write or whatever I need to do.
And then you have filled in here memorabilia from over the years.
I do. I save a lot of the key Mythbusters memorabilia in my IKEA bookcase over here. Occasionally, I do sketches of stuff when I'm trying to work them out. And that's my 5-month calendar, which when things get really, really brutal, I start trying to see things 3 or 4 or 5 months at a time.
There you go. Definitely helps.
Did you fly with the Mythbusters? With the Blue Angels at some point?
I did. I did.
We
Yeah,
got to talk about
we
that.
did an episode about it. All right, let's talk about it.
Okay, yeah, sorry. We're not going to talk about the other thing.
The Blue Angels, we did a story about will a sonic boom break your windows?
Okay.
And there's only one place in the continental United States you're actually allowed to create a sonic boom over land. In fact, it's the reason that the Concorde only went
Now
over
you're saying
the Atlantic
in the air
Ocean.
over land because cars have broken the sound barrier.
Yes, but we're talking about we're talking about like on a regular occurrence.
Okay.
So cars will go out to the Black Rock Desert
Yeah,
and do speed trials and break the speed of sound.
But nobody
It's-
cares out there.
Well, I mean, it is way far away from civilization, but sonic booms up in the atmosphere can be quite disturbing to people on the ground. And so the Concorde was never like that was always a problem with it. You couldn't fly it from New York to Los Angeles.
Right. It would always fly off the coast, and then someplace over the ocean, they'd fire up the jets, and
Right.
and 3 hours later, you'd be in Paris.
It's the problem with Superman.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this is in Yuma, Arizona, which is where one of the places the Blue Angels go and test fly and train.
Okay.
And they train every day. It also turns out that we found out, I didn't realize this, the Blue Angels is not an elite group of pilots who fly FA-18s. If you can fly an FA-18 and land it on an aircraft carrier, you can rotate
You're
through the
in.
Blue Angels.
Well,
Yeah.
it seems like the landing on the aircraft carrier is the hard part of that.
Well, and a story about that in a minute. So we met these we met the Blue Angels, and they go out every single day and they go through maneuvers and stuff. And so we did maneuvers with them. I got to fly. I did 3 flights with them.
Oh, that's awesome.
I broke the speed of sound 7 times.
Oh my goodness.
I pulled 7.5 G's
Wow.
4 or 5 times.
You had to wear the tight pants and the whole 9
No,
yards.
no. Get this. So, what Will's referring to is a G suit, right? And pilots who have to undergo huge amount of G forces are in danger of passing out. And the reason you're in danger of passing out is because when I'm under 7.5 G's, that means I'm under 7.5 times the normal force of gravity, which means that at that point I weigh about 1,500 pounds.
And the blood that's in your body
Blood
weighs
weighs more and goes down.
Yeah.
Right. And that goes away from my head. And when too much blood leaves your head, you pass out.
Yep.
That's why if you're like crouched down on the ground for a long time and you stand right up, you can feel kind of woozy because there's blood leaving your
Yeah,
head.
exactly.
So normal high pressure suits will have effectively air bladders that inflate and squeeze the blood in your body back up into your head.
Pulsating
It's just
or
that they make less room for the blood to pool. So it's like compression hose.
Exactly. Yes.
But-
So it's an adjustable compression hose. The Blue Angels cannot use those because when you're landing on an aircraft carrier, your ability to control the yoke of your plane and precisely align yourself to the tiniest of freaking targets is contingent on total control. And if you're trying to control and an air bladder on your leg is filling up, it's pushing your hand over.
Wow. So naval aviators don't wear those?
So at least the Blue Angels
Okay.
aircraft carrier pilots, I can't speak for any other branch of the Air Force.
So that's
or the
another
Navy.
requirement. You can't fly an F-18 and
Right.
also...
So here's what they do. It's required for them to work out every single day, and they keep the blood in their head by the sheer force of their musculature. Right? As if landing on an aircraft wasn't badass enough. These guys are sitting there. So they're like squeezing their core to keep blood in their head. Now, to give you an idea of what that's like for a civilian, when you fly with the Blue Angels, they give you this whole training thing where they teach you how to breathe to keep blood in your head. And it goes like this. And you just keep on doing that the whole time you're pulling multiple G's. And that force of like the taking a crap sort of,
Using
these
your
guys are
diaphragm
watching my
and-
face turn
yeah.
bright red, is keeping blood in your head.
As if you weren't clenching enough already.
Right. So we're pulling 7.5 G's. You're doing this sort of barrel roll or whatever the hell they're doing with it. And he's telling you to do the thing, and you're doing it, and it kind of hurts, and you're tired, so you slow down a little bit, and that's all of a sudden when a tunnel starts to form.
Oh, no.
And it's that, so you go harder, and the tunnel goes away, and it's like, wow, this is incredible. Meanwhile, the pilot, who's undergoing the same amount of physical energy, is talking to you the whole time.
and flying.
And flying the plane in a 7G roll, right? So he's like, come on, Adam, stay with me. And how does he know how I'm doing? He's looking at me in this little convex rear view mirror. So he can see my state of consciousness in this tiny little mirror and fly the plane and maintain his own blood flow beautifully. These guys are amazing.
And they do this all 5 feet from each other's plane, too. When
Well,
they're in
and
the
so
air show.
that was the so to be clear, I passed out. I totally passed out. And they said we can make anyone throw up, we can make anyone pass out.
Did you throw up?
I threw up like 6 times.
Okay.
That's actually, it turns out, what all those pockets in your flight suit are for. 1 vomit bag each.
Really?
Yeah, I just kept on booting, man. It was, I mean, it's sickening. Amazingly, it's one of the few occasions I've ever had where vomiting did not diminish from the experience
Okay.
whatsoever.
So you're so.
You're
flying
still like, oh
and-
my God, I'm breaking the speed of sound.
Yeah.
And one of the most advanced pieces of equipment humans have ever constructed.
Oh, yeah.
You said you're not a thrill seeker.
I'm not an adrenaline junkie, but I'm not in danger in one of those planes. So that's a different kind of thrill than, say, base jumping, where it's like, boy, I hope I'm good enough to pull this ripcord in the next 150 feet. Otherwise, I'll die. That's a different thrill to me.
Yeah.
So what did it feel like to actually break the sound barrier?
So actually breaking the sound barrier isn't something you don't hear the boom because you're going faster than it.
Yeah.
Well, and the metal conducts sound at a fast rate. So it's not like all of a sudden the plane gets quiet or anything like that, right?
No. Yeah. So
Well, light goes on like, oh, there we
you
go.
don't notice, and he just has this little gauge that doesn't say. Well, it just says Mach, 0.8, 0.9, 0.98, Mach 1, Mach 1.1. So the breaking of the sound barrier didn't feel like anything specific. It was pulling the rolls, pulling the heavy G rolls that was totally intense. Then on the second day, I got to fly in the chase plane. Most days I was in the lead plane.
Okay.
On the second day, I got to fly in the chase plane and operated camera, and that was actually the
that's
coolest thing in the
awesome.
world because he's now flying maybe like 40 feet back and over to the side from the lead plane, and he's saying things like, "Okay, now you see the bumblebee on the side of the see the Hornet on the side, the Hornet logo, right?
'Cause
And
it's
it
the
says
F-18 Hornet.
Blue Angels. There's a Hornet. It's F-18 Hornet, right? So there's this whole sign, and he goes, now if you look at the there's a little thing on the wing, this little square piece of metal that helps keep the wind flow laminar over the wing, and it's ringed in yellow tape, and he goes." And you see there's marks on it by him visually aligning marks on that little airfoil thing there with parts of the Blue Angels logo. Each of them means a different formation.
Wow.
So he's like, all I got to do is line up that little tick on that little flag with the eye of the Hornet, and that's Delta formation.
Wow.
Right. So and then he's showing me, and here's the most incredible.
How incredibly low tech.
Right. Right. It's just, as long as I can see that, I'm good. Here's the other thing. I've been in large pieces of equipment, and when you move around large things, there's always a little bit of settling, right? You move a crane and right? The F-18s, they weigh 35,000 pounds with another 10,000 pounds in fuel or something like that. That's crazy amounts of metal and fuel. So this thing is like the heaviest vehicle I've ever been in, aside from a jet. And as he is telling me about aligning parts of the tick marks on the wing with the logo, he's doing it. And when he's doing it, he's going burp, 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 and he's just moving. And so the whole plane's orientation to the other plane is moving precisely like 12 inches forward.
He
and
thinks
2 inches
it, and
up.
it happens almost.
And it's a level of precision that you'd almost be like, if someone showed it to you, you'd be like, well, I think you need to add a little bit of settling in there because it doesn't feel real. It doesn't look right. Like in CG, it'd be like, well, nothing works like that. Well, it turns out something does work like that, and it's these
At those speeds.
Yeah. Truly astonishing to feel. So, like when he goes upside down, he goes, all right, we're gonna go upside down. He goes, ready, hit it, whoop, and he turns upside down, and it's just the whole room turns upside down.
Is it blink and you missed it, or is it just like suddenly you're vertical and then you're up right side up?
It
and then
feels like you're in a chair, and then all of a sudden the whole room turned around for you.
Wow.
And in just like, about as easily as you could turn a piece of paper, just like whoop, and it flipped 180, and now you're looking at the earth instead of the sky.
And when you were in the chase plane, you were documenting this? You were
Yeah, so I was trying to get we had a few shots we needed to get for coverage of things happening. So I was trying to film part of the ground. I was trying to film the other plane. And I think I ended up with maybe 3 good shots out of the whole thing because it's very hard.
I can imagine.
a little more than
The camera-
pointing a camera outside a 747. when
Yeah,
you're-
and there's a point at which we're pulling a roll, and like now the camera weighs like 100 pounds.
Well, and I have to imagine after, like, even flying in like a small prop plane, like a Cessna or something like that, the difference in flying with windows versus the difference when flying on a commercial jet with a little tiny window versus this, where you just have 180 degrees of vision above you, has got to be astounding.
It's beautiful. I mean, it's a gorgeous view. And flying over Yuma, Arizona, where it's just, he's showing me at one point we flew really low because one of the tests happened as close to the ground as we could get. And he's flying really low, and he really is like, he's like, looks like Beggar's Canyon, doesn't it? And I'm like, it totally does.
There's a womp rat.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So we asked one of the guys, one of the really great guys who was working with us, I guess he mainly flew for Federal Express, but was in the reserves for the Angels, so he flew on the weekends with them. And
God, that's got to be the best reserves of all time, right?
Right. So we said, what's the hardest thing you guys have to do? If being in the Blue Angels it's not that it's easy, but for these guys, it's all in a day's work. What is the really, really hard stuff you got to do? And he said, landing on an aircraft carrier at night in a storm in the North Atlantic. And so then he just started to describe. Now, I have to preface this is how I remember him telling me the story. If anybody out there knows that I'm getting some facts wrong, go ahead and write in. I'm sorry about it. But here's what he was telling me. He said, first of all, in the storm, the waves are pitching up and down 30, 40-foot swells. Big, maybe less than that, but big, huge swells. So the aircraft carrier is going up and down.
Bucking,
right? You've got to land while it's in a valley, not while it's on a hill.
Right, because it'll fall out
So
from
you
under.
have to time your
What's
landing.
the frequency? Like, how long is it in the valley?
It's not long. It's seconds, right? So when you think about I remember reading this in a book about the Drake's Passage circumnavigation race. If you've got like a 30-foot swell, they can be traveling at like 25 miles per hour. So imagine a hill coming up underneath you at 25 miles per hour. And so these swells are moving much faster than you'd think is really possible when we're sitting here in a nice
So you don't want the
cozy room.
aircraft carrier to drop out underneath you as you land.
Right. So you've got to land while it's in a valley. Second of all, you can't really see a lot because of the storm. So you're counting on a guy on the plane to also help. You're counting on a guy on the deck to sight you in and be giving you directions. 3 degrees left, 4 degrees right. Okay, down, your attitude's a little low, out, right? So they're guiding you in. From you're landing past them, right? And all of this, you've got the amount of trust between the crew members in this is also astonishing. The way these guys all trust each other, the way they're all at the top of their game, even their ground crew. It's a lovely thing to work around because in a way, the fact that they're all at that level means that being around them is very relaxing because you don't get to that level by being a hothead. Right. That whole Top Gun thing about everyone's like, woo, I am the badass. Maybe that happens on R&R with these guys, but when we were working with them, they were all absolute. They were like astronauts. They were pictures of calm people who you cannot fluster.
Well, they're aeronautical engineers, right? A lot of them.
Right. So yeah, he said the North Atlantic landing is the toughest. And of course, you know that when you hit the deck of the aircraft carrier, if you don't actually catch the line, you've got to be ready to gun your afterburners and take right off again. The idea of coordinating all of those things at once so that you can land this hugely expensive piece of equipment, it's just incredible.
Yeah, it's a miracle of modern technology, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Why we have vertical landings now.
And of all the things that surprised me, the idea that they could talk through the G-roll while I was sitting there going, oh, I also discovered two things about myself when I'm passing out, because I reviewed the footage up close. Right?
And did you had a camera on you?
I had a little camera right on my face. When I'm pulling 7.5 Gs, I look so much like my dad. Right? My whole face is like dragging down. All of a sudden, I look exactly like my dad. And then when I'm about to pass out, I look totally insane. Like my eyes like start rolling back, and here's the other one they did. We're just about to take off, and they do this rapid ascent. Mm-hmm. So the Hornet takes off, and he goes, "You want to do a rapid ascent?" And I was like, "Sure." And he goes, "Ready, hit it." And when he says hit it, it's not like you're like, okay, now something's going to happen. At the end of the T of hit it, radical things happen. And in this case, the plane starts climbing at like 1,000 feet a second or something incredible.
Accelerating into the climb, right?
And so we go straight up like a rocket. Now, my head was like an inch off the back headrest of my ejection seat. The moment he went into that vertical ascent, I could no longer lift my head. My head was too heavy to lift. So you can see in this footage of me like, I'm literally trying to use all my musculature to lift my heavy head.
Just so you can see.
Just so I can see what's going on. I actually pulled a little muscle. It hurt for about 2 months.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
How long were the flights? Is this like 20, 30 minutes, or is it a long time?
No, it was a good hour for each flight, like 45, 50 minutes per flight.
So were they the kind of thing that went really, really fast, and you were like, oh, I can't believe we're done already? Or was it just so physically exhausting and mentally exhausting that it seemed like a really, really long time?
So I think I did 2 flights on the first day and 1 flight on the second day. Or was it the other way around? No, it was 1 flight on the first day and 2 flights on the second day. And it's not like it goes incredibly fast. It's really beautiful, and the time does fly. Mm-hmm. I really was. By the end of the second flight on the second day, I was really done and happy to get back.
Wrung out.
I immediately crawled into the Captain Dunkelberger's office. Titus Dunkelberger was the captain at that point. I crawled into his office and fell asleep on his floor and slept for like 2.5 solid hours. Bang, like that. I mean, just because it took everything out of me. It was it was exhausting. And the idea that these guys are flying every single day, multiple hours. It's rare that you get to intersect with such a high level of both technical excellence and people at the peak of their physical excellence to be able to perform these incredible tasks.
Were you wearing glasses when you did this, or did you have your contacts on?
No, I was wearing glasses.
Okay.
With a helmet
I really want one of those helmets. Those helmets are so cool. It had like
really
a gold
expensive
visor and everything. They were like, "You want one of these helmets, don't you?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do." Hoping they'd give me what they didn't.
No.
Here's the application. For
that costs more than a Pentagon toilet seat.
Yes. It was one of the very rarefied, totally unbelievable occurrences. Now they do VIP flights in every city, and as they say, even with other experienced pilots, if you're not the one flying, they can make you pass out, even if you're an experienced Blue Angel pilot.
They were accustomed.
They know the limits of humanity, and
taking civilians up, and they're
right, and they delight that we can make anyone pass out, we can make anyone throw up.
That sounds like a challenge.
I know.
So what about the myth of the end, the glass?
We were able to make the glass burst, but we had to be. I wasn't in the plane at that point because of insurance. I think it was something like 16 feet above the ground. It was an incredible. Maybe it wasn't that close,
but it was probably not like modern safety glass. You'd find
and it certainly wasn't like the glass was breaking when we were 200 feet above the ground. That wasn't happening.
That wasn't.
So it falls under the rubric of one of these things of a perfect storm of different factors. It's not just the sonic boom that would make the glass burst. It actually also probably has to do with this. And we made a building that was sealed, right? Because we considered that the pressure inside and out was a key factor. But maybe the building has to be bigger. Maybe there's specific weather patterns. Maybe it's early morning because it's heated up outside and not inside that changes pressure differentials. All of these factors may figure into it. But we busted it on the basis of any sonic boom will make a window break.
Gotcha. Well, thanks, Adam. This has been fascinating. I've never been more jealous in my life of the ride in the F-18.
Well, given that you guys run tested, I think you should we should try on your behalf to reach out to the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds, the other group that flies,
F-16s,
and see if we can't get you guys a ride. I feel like if anybody from one of these groups is listening, that we might be able to do it and feature it on the site.
We would definitely feature it on the site a lot. So,
can you fly with 9 GoPros strapped to your face?
Yeah. We'll bring how many GoPros can we put in? They'll each weigh 160 pounds.
Yes,
at the end.
exactly.
What happens to your beard at certain speeds?
Your beard?
Yeah. Things should test.
Right.
That's a good
ripple.
question. That's
Exactly.
definitely a question we need to answer.
Well, thanks so much. We'll be back next week with another episode of Still Untitled. Until then, see you guys later.
Excellent.
Bye.
Bye.